Chapter 1. The False Conviction Under the Cold Snow. The northern blizzard howled fiercely outside the rough stone walls of the Bloodclaw Pack, scattering freezing snowflakes over the execution square. The rough black granite pillars, covered in moss and snow, stood tall under the flickering light of pine oil torches. Hundreds of wolf warriors surrounded the area, their eyes burning with wild, contemptuous glares. Valeria knelt on the cold snow, her skinny hands tightly locked by the dark iron shackles, weighing heavily on her bleeding wrists. She was once the bravest wolf warrior of the Bloodclaw Pack, the one who single-handedly led the border patrol team to repel dozens of attacks from the cruel rogues. But today, she stood here to endure the ultimate humiliation from those she had once shed blood to protect. Standing tall before her was Alpha Silas, the young leader, the one who was always jealous of her battle prestige and superior martial strength within the Bloodclaw Pack. He wore a heavy, rough fur cloak, his alpha eyes burning with cruelty and cowardly envy as he looked down at the small girl. He stood tall on the high stone platform, raising his deep, authoritative voice filled with fierce wolfish wildness to incite the entire crowd of wolf warriors. Valeria has betrayed the trust of the entire Bloodclaw Pack. She does not deserve our protection or any of our respect. The Supreme Pack Law clearly states, a wolfless weakling who cannot shift and commits treason shall suffer the heaviest punishment, stripped of the warrior cloak, and exiled to the wild borders as prey for the beasts. Beside him, Evelyn, a cruel she-wolf who always desired the Luna position, wore a gorgeous red silk dress embroidered with gold thread, resting her head on Silas's shoulder with a triumphant, malicious smile. Silas raised the wildness-testing magic stone high before the entire pack, his deep voice carrying the ultimate suppressing power. Warriors of the Bloodclaw Pack. Today I, Alpha Silas, declare the cancellation of our engagement and reject Valeria before the revered moon goddess. The magic stone's result has clearly proven. Valeria is a wolfless being who cannot shift, her wolf veins completely paralyzed and ashy gray like dust. She is just a weak, useless weakling disguised as a warrior to deceive the pack. Not only that, Silas waved his hand, pointing directly at Valeria's battle luggage thrown on the ground by the guards, where a dark red royal bloodwolf jade was shining eerily. She stole the family's royal bloodwolf jade to collude with and sell information to the brutal rogues beyond the wild borders. Furious screams of outrage immediately erupted fiercely across the large stone square. The wolf warriors banged their iron shields loudly, screaming to execute the cowardly traitor. The noble she-wolves standing on the grandstand covered their mouths in mocking laughter, despising Valeria as a dirty wolfless brat sneaking into the supreme warrior ranks. They threw cold snow, half-eaten sheep bones, and sharp stones at the girl kneeling on the ground. Valeria gritted her teeth, her hazel eyes shining with unyielding pride despite the fresh blood from her forehead slowly trailing down her cold, flawless face. Valeria let out a cold laugh, her unyielding hazel eyes staring straight at Silas and Evelyn. Memories of 10 years of arduous training at the wild borders flashed through her mind. She had shed so much blood and tears to protect this Bloodclaw Pack from the devastation of the rogues. The long, intertwined scars on her back were the most powerful proof of her absolute loyalty. But today, the very one she protected used that fake magic stone to deny all her merits, trampling upon her warrior honor. Valeria knelt on the cold snow, her bleeding hands gripping the stone platform tightly. She looked up at the northern sky tonight, where the wild blizzard covered everything. She knew that her pride could not be buried by these filthy schemes. Silas might strip her warrior cloak, might tear away her title before the crowd, but he could never steal the warrior blood and the unyielding will within her soul. She promised herself to survive, to demand back 100-fold this debt of honor and blood. The elders of the Bloodclaw Pack nodded in unison, agreeing with Silas's declaration. They all believed that a useless she-wolf who could not shift and had treasonous intents would bring bad omens and weaken the combat strength of the allied pack. Silas looked at her coldly without a hint of pity. Valeria, your existence here is only a burden and a disgrace to the pack. I cannot let a wolfless weakling who cannot shift stand in the royal warrior position. Blame your own weak fate, Evelyn smiled arrogantly, leaning close to Silas's chest with full smugness. Silas, you are spitting venom. Valeria raised her steely voice, tearing through the freezing night, her chest heaving with rapid breaths of fury. I have spent my whole life shedding blood to protect this border. The bloodwolf jade was secretly stuffed into my luggage by you before the ceremony. As for my wolf wildness, she glared at Evelyn, who was caressing a small bottle of pale black magic powder at her side. It was that despicable woman who secretly put the grey wolfsbane powder into my ceremonial wine. You colluded in a cowardly scheme to steal my Luna throne and eliminate me from the pack. Evelyn let out a cold laugh, stepping up to stand beside Silas, her hand caressing a sparkling silver jade, and a keepsake she had stolen from Valeria's mother many years ago. Evelyn spoke in a sweet but venomous voice. Sister Valeria, stop clinging to the ancient royal warrior title. You are just a dirty wolfless weakling. Furthermore, a wolfless weakling who cannot shift cannot stand in the Luna position beside the Alpha. Your uselessness will bring bad omens to the entire Bloodclaw pack. Our pack needs strong warriors, not a useless wolfless weakling like you. Valeria was violently shaken, her chest tightening as if pierced by 1,000 needles. Before the ceremony, Evelyn had secretly slipped the grey wolfsbane powder into Valeria's ginseng tea. That cruel toxin temporarily froze Valeria's silver wolf veins for 24 hours, causing the sacrificial magic stone to instantly turn ashy gray when she touched it, the symbol of a useless weakling. Evelyn had plotted this scheme for a long time to snatch Valeria's Luna throne. Shut up, Valeria, Silas roared madly, his wolf wildness erupting fiercely. He unleashed a brutal alpha aura, pressing straight down on the small girl, forcing her knees deep into the thick, freezing snow. The evidence is clear. How dare you slander the new Luna of the Bloodclaw pack? Guards, strip her warrior cloak, strip all her titles, and exile her forever to the wild dead forest for the rogues to handle. 2 wolf warriors stepped forward, roughly tearing off Valeria's silver-lined fur cloak, the symbol of her illustrious battle achievements, and roughly dragged her along the freezing stone steps. Evelyn stood on the grand stone throne, breaking into a triumphant smile of ultimate victory as she saw her proud sister trampled under the horse manure. The giant iron gates of the Bloodclaw pack swung open with a loud crash. Valeria was thrown straight onto the snow carpet outside the wild forest. The howling blizzard swallowed Valeria's lonely figure, but her eyes still burned with the determination of immortal revenge. She struggled up from the wild snow carpet, turning her head to look back at the tightly closed city gates, swearing that one day she would return to demand justice as a supreme warrior. Chapter 2: The Encounter in the Dead Forest. The Dead Forest was a barren wilderness where blizzards howled all year round, where the gnarled, blackened branches of ancient pine trees covered in frost stood tall like demonic claws. Valeria walked with difficulty on the thick snow carpet, reaching her knees, her body clad only in a thin, torn old woolen dress. Although her shadow wolf wildness was temporarily frozen by Evelyn's grey wolfsbane powder, the ironclad fighting will of a true warrior still kept her awake. She had built a small medicinal herb tent hidden behind a rough granite cliff for shelter. Along the thick snow trail, she carefully set up a series of stone and wire traps to protect her shelter from the prying eyes of wandering rogues. One night, a roaring shook the entire gray stone valley, shattered the silence of the dead forest. Lycan King was leading a small patrol of the Black Guard when they suddenly fell into a massive ambush by hundreds of brutal rogue wolves. The rogues had herded the Black Guard Legion deep into a narrow, funnel-shaped gorge, where the immense wildness power of Kalen and his warriors could not be utilized due to the cramped combat space. Waves of rogues descended from the cliffs like a flood, using the darkness and snow fog to tear into them. Although Kalen swung his greatsword, slashing down dozens of enemies, the overwhelming number of rogues was gradually wearing down the vitality of the Black Guard team. From a hidden high cliff, Valeria witnessed the battlefield situation with her sharp, tactical vision. Realizing the Black Guard squad was trapped at a disadvantage, she immediately took action. She did not charge down directly but used her intellect to direct the battlefield. She swung her short sword, cleanly cutting the rope connected to a giant boulder trap she had set up beforehand. Tons of snow and huge rocks crashed down violently from the mountainside, completely severing the rogue pack's formation, blocking their reinforcement route. Next, Valeria threw a series of homemade herbal poison smoke bombs with a distinct pungent smell continuously down the gorge. The toxic smoke spread with the wind, disrupting the keen sense of smell of the rogues, causing them to panic and tear at each other in blindness. Amidst the chaos, Valeria leaped down from a low stone ledge, swinging her short sword to slash the throat of the alpha rogue. Fall back and stick to the eastern cliff. Valeria raised her steely voice, containing absolute commanding authority. They are losing their bearings. Shift into a semicircular formation, use iron shields for cover, and corner them into the left dead-end gorge. In that life-or-death moment, Kaelin and the Blackguard warriors, although astonished by the appearance of a strange wolfless girl, unconsciously obeyed her perfect tactical commands out of warrior reflex. They quickly shifted their formation, borrowing the wind, blowing the poison smoke, and the terrain advantage to counterattack, crushing the remnants of the rogue pack in the blink of an eye. The battle ended. The snow carpet of the dead forest dyed with the enemy's red blood. Kaelin leaned his blood-stained greatsword on the snow, his ashy gray eyes filled with ultimate shock and admiration. He walked toward Valeria, the fated mate bond suddenly erupted fiercely, like a fire burning in both their veins. But what moved Kaelin even more was her supreme military command thinking. He took off his majestic black wolf royal cloak and draped it over the small girl. "Who are you?" "Oh, brilliant female commander. Even without wolf wildness, your tactical vision has saved my entire elite guard squad." Valeria looked up at him with full resilience. "I am Valeria." The warrior exiled by the Bloodclaw pack, Kaelin let out a proud laugh, lifting her high into the sturdy, muscular arms of the Wolf King. "They are truly foolish to throw away a precious gem like you. I claim you not only because you are my fated mate, but because my North is longing for a commander-in-chief possessing a sharp tactical mind like yours. Stoneback Fortress will open its gates to welcome its new supreme commander." Chapter 3. The Trial at the Grey Stone Fortress. The Stoneback Fortress stood majestically on the peak of the freezing northern Rocky Mountain, surrounded by thick defensive walls made of rough black granite and thousands of sharp iron spikes. This placed the center of supreme power of the northern Lycan King, where the Black Guard pack guarded every secondary passageway closely day and night. The large stone pillars in the castle were carved with images of the royal ancestors' heroic battles against the cruel rogues. Fragrant beeswax fires burned brightly along the large castle corridors, bringing warmth to dispel the biting cold of the wild border. The next day, when Valeria was brought back to the royal castle by Kaelin, the incessant murmurs and gossips of the Blackguard warriors, clad in black iron armor, echoed across the rough stone training ground. They did not submit to a rejected she-wolf, considered a cowardly and useless weakling, standing beside their supreme Lycan King. The head military trainer of the Blackguard, General Thorn, stepped up in front of Kaelin, raising his voice provocatively with full doubt. "Great King, our castle reveres practical tactics and military strength. We cannot accept a useless wolfless Omega as Luna or commander of the Royal Guard. If she truly has the commanding ability you mentioned, let her undergo the Blackguard's supreme tactical trial on the sand table and the simulated military training ground." Valeria stepped forward, taking off Kaelin's black wolf royal cloak and setting it aside, facing General Thorn with unyielding proud eyes. "I accept your tactical trial. If I lose, I will voluntarily leave Obsidian Fortress immediately. But if I win, I demand the Blackguard warriors to obey my tactical commands." Kaelin sat on the large stone throne draped with gray bear skin, slightly narrowing his eyes with a proud smile. He nodded in agreement. "All right. I allow Valeria to command a squad of 10 recruits, facing against General Thorn's elite guard squad of 30 on the simulated rock sand table south of the castle. The battle will end when one side is captured alive, or completely annihilated on the military simulation model." The simulated rock sand table south of the castle was an undulating rocky valley full of thick snow, featuring many steep black cliffs and rows of ancient gnarled pine trees. General Thorn divided his 30 elite guards into 3 wings, relying on their wolf wildness strength to attack relentlessly in order to crush Valeria's recruit squad in the blink of an eye. He let out a cold laugh, confident in an absolute victory against a she-wolf who could not shift. He mocked loudly. "Let's see how many minutes this wolfless brat can last under our wildness strength." However, Valeria was not panicked or terrified at all. She gathered the 10 recruits, calmly instructing, "The Snow Mountain doesn't care how big or strong you are. It only cares whether you can keep your balance and utilize the terrain. Trust the terrain and wait for my command." With her excellent military tactical mind tempered through 10 years at the wild borders, she quickly analyzed the treacherous terrain of the Rocky Valley. She identified a narrow, steep rocky gorge called the Throat Gorge, where the northern blizzard blew fiercely into the valley. She did not deploy her troops to confront a force 3 times stronger head-on uselessly. Valeria divided the 10 recruits into small groups, hiding them carefully in the rough granite rock crevices. She utilized the rough black granite pillars to lure the enemy into a single-file formation passing through the narrow gorge, completely stripping away their overwhelming numerical advantage. She ordered 2 recruits to run along the eastern mountainside, creating fake noises with iron shields to lure Thorne's vanguard wing deep into the dead-end rocky gorge. When Thorne's army was fully trapped in the gorge, Valeria immediately activated the pre-prepared artificial avalanche trap by shooting fire arrows to melt the precarious ice blocks above. Tons of rock and snow crashed down violently, blocking the vanguard wing's retreat path, completely isolating Thorne's forces. Next, she led the recruit squad from the high cliffs, pointing spears down to tightly surround the enemy, forcing them to surrender unconditionally. General Thorne and the remaining 2 wings hurriedly brought their troops to rescue, but Valeria had foreseen this. She used a divide-and-conquer ambush tactic along the ancient pine tree rows. She had the recruits use homemade herbal poison smoke, with a distinct pungent smell to disrupt the wolf warrior's sense of smell, while utilizing the wind blowing fiercely from the throat gorge to blow the smoke to completely blind the enemy, making them lose their bearings entirely in the white snow fog. In less than an hour, Valeria had annihilated and captured alive all 30 of Thorne's elite guards, while her squad of 10 recruits suffered absolutely no casualties. The entire training ground immediately fell into a dead silence before this heroic and unimaginable victory. General Thorne knelt on the cold, wild sand, roaring in helpless anger, but having to bow his head in absolute admiration for her supreme military command thinking. He admitted loudly before the crowd, "Your tactics are truly perfect. I concede defeat and ask to receive your military coordination." The surrounding Black Guard warriors simultaneously banged their iron shields loudly, creating resounding noises that shook the valley to congratulate the new royal tactical commander-in-chief. They no longer had any of the initial contempt or cold mockery, only ultimate admiration and absolute respect for Valeria. Kalen sat on the royal stone throne, his ashy gray eyes filled with boundless pride and arrogance as he watched her every move. He realized that this sharp military mind was exactly what the freezing north desperately needed to cope with the upcoming outbreak of the border rogue war. She was not a useless, weak Omega. She was a true warrior possessing the stature of a great general. Kalen stepped down the sand platform, gently draping the majestic black wolf royal cloak back over her thin, sweat-drenched shoulders. "Warriors of the North." Kalen raised his deep, warm voice, containing the supreme alpha aura, echoing throughout the castle. "Valeria has proven she is the most excellent tactical warrior. I claim her not only because she is my fated mate, but because I see in her a true general most worthy to command the entire army of Stoneback Fortress. Even if her old pack rejected her, she will still be the supreme commander-in-chief of my Blackguard army." Around hundreds of black iron-armored Blackguard warriors knelt simultaneously on the cold sand, bowing their heads to swear loyalty to Valeria. Valeria smiled proudly, knowing she had taken a solid step in affirming her position with her military command intellect, shattering all the lowly prejudices of her enemies. The news of Valeria, becoming the Blackguard commander-in-chief, solely through her transcendent tactical mind, reached the Bloodclaw pack, making Silas and Evelyn's limbs go numb with extreme shock and fear. Silas ground his teeth in furious hatred, realizing the immense threat approaching if Valeria returned for revenge. Chapter 4. The pain of the seal. The royal room on the highest floor of Stoneback Fortress was surprisingly warm and quiet. The large fire burning fiercely in the grand stone fireplace at the corner of the room radiated a gentle warmth, dispelling the biting cold of the northern winter night, howling outside the window. Valeria sat on the edge of the massive stone bed covered in soft, warm white bearskins. Her body was still wrapped in Kalen's majestic black wolf royal cloak, radiating his cedarwood scent that gave her an unprecedented sense of security after days of miserable fleeing in the wilderness. Her skinny hands had been applied with ointment by the royal healers and carefully bandaged with clean gauze, no longer throbbing with pain. The royal bedroom dedicated to Valeria at Stoneback Fortress was a massive room filled with the warm light of wax candles. Deep red velvet curtains obscured the freezing cliff walls. The rough stone floor was covered in soft, warm white bearskins. The magic fireplace placed in the corner radiated a gentle warmth, dispelling the blizzard howling madly beyond the borders. Valeria sat huddled on the large stone bed, her hazel eyes staring at the pile of herbal magic books scattered on the floor. She still felt suffocated and insecure in the face of Kylan's royal status. She wondered how a she-wolf temporarily stripped of her wolf wildness, like her, could stand beside the northern royal throne, a place that originally revered supreme, fierce wolf strength. Kylan strode into the room with light steps, to avoid disturbing her. The Northern King had shed his heavy iron armor, wearing only a loose black silk shirt that accentuated his muscular chest covered in battle scars. His ashy gray eyes softened as he saw the small girl huddled on the stone bed. "Are you still not used to my castle, Valeria?" Kylan raised his deep, warm voice, slowly walking to the large stone bed. He sat down on the empty space beside her, keeping a polite distance to avoid making her feel oppressed under his royal aura. Valeria shook her head slightly, her hazel eyes looking at him with complexity. "Great King, I appreciate your warm care. But I still fear for your position before the High Council. I am a wolfless Omega exiled from the Bloodclaw pack. Moreover, your claiming bite is too powerful. I am afraid my weak, sealed body cannot endure it. Please give me more time to find the truth about my wolfless result from years ago by myself." Kylan slightly narrowed his eyes, smiling affectionately. He gently patted her shoulder. "Valeria, I am the Lycan King, but I respect the honor of a commanding warrior above all else. I claim you not only because the fated mate bond erupted, but because I see in you a true general who can help me rebuild the Northern Territory. I will not hastily sink the fated claiming bite into your neck until you are truly ready and manually break the Grey Wolfsbane powder seal. Even if the Northern High Council elders exert political pressure about the presence of a wolfless commander, I will still use my entire Lycan King authority to protect you to the end." He warned further, "Silas has very deep and complex connections with some corrupt elders in the High Council. He will certainly use his political influence to force us to hand you over." Valeria smiled lightly with full confidence, her eyes shining with military intellect. "Do not worry, Kylan. Not only am I preparing the antidote, but I am also researching the border transaction records in your library. I have found secret parchment scrolls recording Silas's transactions of selling the Bloodwolf jade and borderlands to dark magic merchants at the frontier, in exchange for this Grey Wolfsbane powder. This is an unforgivable treason under Northern law. At the upcoming trial, I will use this very tactical strike to break all his political wings." The Obsidian Fortress Library was a massive room built from eternal black rough granite blocks. Large stone pillars carved with images of past wolf kings stood tall, supporting the high, dusty ceiling. This place contained thousands of ancient parchments and ancient magic runes recording ancient potions. Valeria used her skinny, skillful fingers to turn each torn page to search for traces of the Grey Wolfsbane powder. She carefully copied the dusty ancient symbols to research the antidote formula herself. She meticulously read each ancient purifying herbal formula, trying to connect them with memories of her late mother, who was a brilliant healer of the royal Shadow Wolf family. Her mother had once recorded an important warning in her diary. "If one day your wolf energy core is frozen by the Grey Wolfsbane powder, do not despair, the wolf energy is compressed like water behind a dam. When the seal is completely broken, the erupting wildness power will be 10 times stronger than before." That precious advice gave her an intense belief. Valeria carefully conducted small reaction experiments on a silver plate. She dropped a few drops of herbal solution extracted from the eternal snow lotus onto the poison sample, nervously watching as the murky, ashy gray color of the toxin slowly changed, releasing a pure white smoke with a refreshing snow jasmine scent. She recorded this reaction formula, knowing she was getting very close to successfully creating the antidote. The bookroom was warmed by a magic heating pipe system, running under the rough stone floor. The giant oak tables were filled with small glass vials containing colorful herbal solutions. The sweet, refreshing scent of white jasmine and snow lotus spread across every corner of the castle, dispelling the damp feeling clinging to the castle's cliff walls. Valeria stood on a high wooden platform to retrieve old magic books placed on the highest shelf, her heart filled with determination to demand justice for herself and restore her majestic Shadow Wolf wildness. Meanwhile, in the forge below, Kylan was intently forging a special iron sword dedicated just for her. The sound of hammers striking iron and steel rang loudly, echoing across the gray stone valley. He thought to himself that Valeria was the only Luna who could fight side by side with him on every upcoming stormy battlefield of the wild north. Her bravery and sharp, commanding mind had completely conquered the beastly soul of the great Wolf King. He wanted her to stand beside him not as a weakling to be served, but as a supreme co-commander ruling over this entire freezing north. Chapter 5: Clues in the Ashes. The faint morning sunlight of the freezing north pierced through the crevices of the rough stone windows of the Stoneback Fortress library, illuminating the dust particles floating in the damp air. Valeria knelt beside the ancient oak chest, containing the herbal remnants of the Bloodclaw pack sent to the castle many years ago. Her skinny hands trembled slightly as she discovered a small, broken dark blue glass vial lying deep in the corner of the chest, emitting a very familiar, faint, pungent smell, the scent of the toxin that paralyzed her bloodlines on the moon goddess sacrificial night years ago. In the ruins of the battered oak chest in the deepest corner of the royal library, Valeria discovered a small dark blue glass vial broken in half. As she brought the vial to her keen sense of smell, a faint pungent smell of the gray wolfsbane powder rose, rushing straight into her brain and making her gasp for air with difficulty. This was the cruel toxin that Evelyn had secretly slipped into her ginseng tea before the coming-of-age ceremony to freeze her bloodlines. Valeria carefully used copper tweezers to pick up the dust-covered glass shards and put them in her woolen sweater pocket to keep as ironclad evidence. Deep beneath the herbal ruins, Valeria also unexpectedly found a torn, animal skin-bound old diary of her late father, who was a heroic former great general of the Bloodclaw pack before being murdered by Silas's family to usurp military power. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped open the yellowed pages covered in snow dust. On the last page her father had written passionate words. A true commander leads an army with a sharp tactical mind and a steadfast heart, not just relying on brutal, fierce wolf wildness. The beast is only the blade, while the commanding intellect is the hand holding the sword. Her father's precious advice fueled the flame of enthusiasm and the intense will for revenge in the small girl's veins. Valeria carefully placed the glass shard on a small silver plate, dropping a few drops of the royal magic testing solution onto it. The stone immediately emitted a pale ashy gray smoke, radiating the unpleasant pungent smell of the gray wolfsbane powder toxin. She clenched her fists, her hazel eyes shining with fury. "It is exactly as I thought. Evelyn used this poison to destroy my wildness veins. I will prove this before the entire High Council and expose their hypocritical faces. This scent is indeed the gray wolfsbane powder." Valeria muttered breathlessly, her hazel eyes shining with pride mixed with ultimate fury. The gray wolfsbane powder toxin was an extremely cruel dark magic poison of the border witches, capable of temporarily freezing the wolf energy veins in a she-wolf's body, causing the magic testing stone to turn ashy gray and preventing shifting. Evelyn had secretly slipped this toxin into her ginseng tea before the coming-of-age ceremony to falsely accuse Valeria of being a useless weakling and snatch the Luna throne of the Bloodclaw pack. Valeria tightly gripped the broken glass vial, her heart burning like fire. This was the most ironclad piece of evidence she had been searching for all along. With her rich herbal medical knowledge, she began brewing a magic antidote from the eternal snow lotus and sweet white jasmine to completely remove the dark seal in her chest. At the Bloodclaw pack, Silas was angrily pacing back and forth in the secret room, his alpha eyes glaring maliciously at Evelyn. "We must ally with the High Council elders to force Kaelin to extradite Valeria. If she finds the gray wolfsbane powder evidence and dispels the seal, all our crimes will be exposed to the public. We must use pack law to destroy that brat before it's too late." Evelyn gritted her teeth in an evil smile. "I have prepared the High Council's magic testing stone for the confrontation. That brat will have to kneel and face death in the wild borders." Just then, from outside the royal secret room door, the echoing shouts of the Black Guard warriors rang out along the rough black granite corridor. "Great King, there is news from the Bloodclaw pack. Alpha Silas and Evelyn have sent a delegation to the castle demanding Valeria's extradition for the crime of fleeing exile. Supreme Elder Thorn of the High Council is also traveling with them to investigate the legitimacy of the North's fated mate." Valeria was violently shaken, her chest tightening with difficulty under the pressure of ultimate fear. She knew Silas and Evelyn wanted to borrow the High Council's hands to destroy her before she could restore her wolf wildness and expose the whole truth to the public. They feared the Lycan King's aura, and the true mate bond would strip away their hypocritical masks. Kaelin stood tall beside Valeria in the royal secret room, his black wolf royal cloak radiating a majestic aura. He placed his hand on the girl's thin shoulder, speaking in a deep voice. "Valeria, you need not worry about Silas and Evelyn's attack. My black guard has been heavily deployed around the castle, ready to crush any intrusion by the Bloodclaw. Focus on brewing the antidote. I swear to step forward and protect you before the entire High Council, returning the honor and glory that rightfully belong to you. Valeria, do not be afraid. Kalen suddenly strode into the library, his ashy gray eyes filled with royal coldness and majesty. He stepped closer, holding the small girl's thin shoulders. I have ordered the Black Guard to lock down the entire castle. No one from the High Council or the Bloodclaw Pack is allowed to step through the iron gates of Stoneback Fortress without my permission. Rest assured, stay in this secret room and continue brewing your antidote. I will go out to the Great Hall to confront them. Valeria looked up at Kalen with deep emotion, her skinny hands gripping tightly onto his shirt. Kalen, Silas, and Evelyn are extremely cunning. They have brought the High Council's magic testing stone to force me to retest in front of the entire Grand Council. If my wolf bloodlines are still sealed by the gray wolfsbane powder, we will fall into a completely disadvantageous position. Kalen slightly narrowed his eyes in a cold, proud smile. I am the Lycan King of the North. My prestige does not depend on any fake magic stone test results. If they want to play the High Council's game, I will force all of them to bow before this stone throne to witness true justice being served. Valeria carefully used a small silver spoon to measure every single drop of the eternal snow lotus extract into the magic antidote vial. The blue glass vial radiated the gentle coldness of royal ice and snow, reacting fiercely with the sun-moon purifier bloodline in her body. Every drop of the brewed antidote contained her love for Kalen and the resilient survival will of a warrior wanting to demand honor and justice for her clan. She knew she had only one chance to break the seal. Outside the windows of Stoneback Fortress, the northern blizzard howled madly, as if wanting to swallow all the steep, dark cliffs. Large snowflakes fell clattering onto the castle's stone glass, quickly freezing under the biting cold of the freezing winter night. But inside the royal secret room, the warmth from the magic fireplace and Kalen's gentle love were still embracing and warming the trembling soul of the small girl, giving her an ironclad belief in the future. With that said, Kalen turned and walked away, his black wolf royal cloak billowing majestically along the grand castle corridor, heading toward the Great Hall, where a political storm was preparing to erupt fiercely. Chapter 6. Marching to the border, the northern blizzards never stopped howling, but today, the atmosphere at Stoneback Fortress was even more violently shaken by an urgent secret report from the freezing border. A vanguard regiment of the Black Guard, commanded by Beta Logan, was trapped and tightly surrounded by a massive rogue wolf force at Frost Pass, one of the most treacherous lifelines of the wild border. The steep and dangerous terrain of the pass, with vertical granite cliffs covered in slippery snow, combined with the harsh blizzard weather, had completely isolated the Royal Vanguard team from rescue reinforcements. In the castle's military map room, the elders and iron-armored generals were arguing fiercely. An ancient parchment map was spread across the giant oak table, depicting deep, perilous rocky valleys. Just then, an envoy from the Bloodclaw Pack entered, conveying Alpha Silas' demand that Kalen not send rescue troops, using the excuse that this was an internal border dispute, and the Bloodclaw Pack would resolve it themselves. Valeria stepped forward, her hazel eyes burning with furious fire. She immediately pointed out her ex-fiancé's dark scheme. Do not listen to Silas's lies. He deliberately leaked Logan's patrol route to the border rogues, to borrow their hands to destroy the vanguard force of the Greystone Fortress, weakening Lycan King Kalen's authority. General Thorne slammed the table in anger, turning toward Valeria with doubt. The rogue force numbers in the hundreds. We cannot deploy a large army into the pass because of the risk of an avalanche burying the entire army. If we try to charge in and rescue Logan, we will fall straight into their cruel pincer ambush trap. You say Silas plotted this, but how can we neutralize this vicious ambush trap? The other high-ranking wolf generals in the meeting room continuously shook their heads, mocking her as a wolfless girl who knew nothing about supreme military strategy. Valeria did not flinch. She stepped closer to the sand table, pointing at historical battle landmarks. Look at the battle formation diagram of the Three Rivers battle 10 years ago. You also used a frontal advance tactic, and the result was the entire regiment being buried. The current rogue force is applying exactly that diagram. They distributed 3 wings to surround the pass, but due to the narrow and steep terrain of Frost Pass, they are forced to divide their formation, unable to maintain reserve forces in the center to cover when unexpectedly attacked from the mountainside. Valeria boldly pointed to a small winding trail hidden behind the granite cliff west of the pass. Look here, General Thorne. This western trail is steep and slippery. Large wolves cannot move through due to the heavy weight of their armor and massive physique. This was originally a path for wild border goats, with rocky slopes almost at 90 degrees. But for a highly mobile, lightly equipped close combat warrior squad using climbing iron hooks, this is the shortest path to flank them, seizing the high ground for archery from the high cliff. We will use the avalanche from the peak of the pass to bury the rogue ambush force instead of being attacked by them. General Thorne stared in contemptuous disbelief. You? A weak, wolfless she-wolf wants to command the rescue squad into the most perilous death zone? Only death awaits there. The High Council cannot entrust the lives of the Blackguard warriors to an Omega who cannot shift like you. Kalen sat majestically on the large stone throne beside them, his ashy gray eyes shining with boundless pride and arrogance at the sharp commanding mind of his fated mate. He stood up, unleashing a supreme alpha aura that immediately crushed all voices of opposition in the map room. Enough, Valeria is the supreme commander-in-chief of the Blackguard army. I completely trust in her military commanding mind. She will lead a rescue squad of 20 elite warriors along the Western Trail. I will personally command the main force in a diversionary frontal attack to draw the rogues' attention. Anyone who disobeys her tactical commands on the battlefield will be stripped of their military iron armor. Valeria turned to Kalen, nodding firmly. Thank you, Great King. I request preparing 50 extra flasks of snow, jasmine herbal poison smoke to bring along. We will use the herbal poison smoke to blind the rogues' keen sense of smell, stripping away their wild pack-hunting coordination in the white snow fog. Additionally, we need to reinforce the iron arrowheads with anticoagulant herbs to take down the enemy as quickly as possible. Under Valeria's prompt direction, the Blackguard warriors quickly prepared the lightest equipment for a highly mobile march. She requested the blacksmiths to design extra sharp iron spikes attached to the soles of the warriors' boots and reduce the weight of the chest armor to help them climb the slippery cliffs of the western path easily without slipping. They wore warm black wolf royal cloaks to camouflage amidst the freezing border blizzard. Valeria personally checked the special iron sword Kalen had forged exclusively for her, her heart swelling with unyielding pride. She knew this was the decisive tactical battle that would help her affirm her supreme military command position before all the High Council elders and the freezing Northern Alliance. The rescue troops quickly set off, heading straight into the cold darkness of Frost Pass under Valeria's proud leadership. The fierce, howling blizzard blew bursts of biting cold into the faces of the black iron-armored warriors, but no one faltered when seeing the resilient, unyielding back of the wolfless Luna leading the brave army into the perilous Greystone Valley. They completely trusted in her cool head and brilliant military commanding mind. Chapter 7. The Battle of Frost Pass. Frost Pass appeared amidst the hazy snow fog like a giant crack slashing through the wild border Rocky Mountains. The fierce blizzard howled and screamed past the dark, vertical granite cliffs, carrying a bone-chilling cold. Deep in the valley, Beta Logan and the Blackguard Vanguard warrior squad were exhaustedly fending off the frantic attacks of hundreds of bloodshot-eyed rogue wolves. Bright red blood deeply stained patches of the pure white snow. Logan's iron armor was cracked in many places, and the steel sword in his hand was broken in half during the brutal close-quarters combat. The rogues' encirclement tightened bit by bit, threatening to completely bury the Royal Vanguard team. Logan looked at the young warriors falling, his heart filled with despair, thinking this would be the cold, snowy grave for the entire squad. Just as the giant alpha rogue lunged to tear at Logan's neck, 3 arrows coated in poison smoke accurately pierced its eyes from the high cliff above. Valeria led the agile 20-warrior rescue squad climbing the steep western cliff of the pass. The rock face covered in slippery ice and snow was extremely dangerous. A single misstep could mean falling into a bottomless abyss. Valeria used her iron short sword to stab deep into the rock crevices as a leverage point to climb, her skinny hands bleeding from the biting cold, but her hazel eyes still burned with resilient, unyielding will. She made subtle hand signals to order the Blackguard warriors to stop, hiding completely behind the gnarled ancient pine trees to observe the entire panorama of the enemy's ambush terrain. She quickly identified the pincer ambush trap of the rogues. They deployed their main force to attack Logan in the valley, while 2 other rogue squads hid on the eastern mountainside, ready to trigger rock avalanches to crush any reinforcements. Just as I predicted, Valeria whispered steely. We will seize this western archery high ground first. Everyone prepare arrows attached with snow, jasmine herbal poison smoke. Aim straight at the eastern mountainside where the rogue squad is ambushing for me. When the poison smoke erupts, shoot fire arrows into the snow and ice blocks above to create an avalanche and bury them. The Black Guard warriors held their breath, obeying the brilliant commander. At Valeria's sword-swinging signal, dozens of arrows carrying herbal poison smoke flasks were fired simultaneously, striking the eastern mountainside. The small glass flasks shattered, releasing a thick, pungent green smoke of snow jasmine herbs that spread quickly with the strong blowing north wind. The ambushing rogue wolves were immediately choked by the toxic smoke, their keen sense of smell destroyed. They howled madly, clawing at the ground in complete disorientation. Immediately after, a volley of blazing fire arrows was shot straight into the giant ice blocks hanging precariously high above. The heat and concussive impact caused the ice blocks to crack open deafeningly. Tons of snow and rock crashed down violently onto the eastern mountainside. The roar of the avalanche sounded like echoing thunder across the rocky gorge, completely burying the rogue ambush force in just a few minutes. The enemy's ambush trap was completely broken to everyone's ultimate astonishment. Attack to rescue, Valeria shouted loudly, giving hand signals for the archer squad to seize the high ground and cover the flanks, then drew her iron sword and strode down into the valley to rescue Logan. Valeria stood tall on a high rock amidst the blizzard, loudly shouting military voice commands to coordinate the formation. Group 1, form an iron phalanx shield to block the two flanks. Group 2, close in range, use spears to thrust deep into the gaps in the rogue's armor. Continuous covering archery from the west. The warriors strictly followed her steely voice commands, quickly forming a solid defensive wall protecting the flanks, completely stopping the chaotic riot of the rogue pack blinded by the herbal smoke. Valeria led the rescue squad straight into the middle of the chaotic rogue formation in the pass valley. Even without a wolf to protect her, she moved as fast as lightning, using masterful swordsmanship combined with the peak close-quarters combat skills of a battle-hardened commander. A giant rogue wolf with dirty gray fur roared angrily, swinging its sharp wolf claws fiercely at Valeria's head. Valeria calmly ducked under the vicious claw sweep sliding along the cold snow. As she glided past him, she swung the special sword forged exclusively by Kaelin, cleanly severing the giant's hamstring, making him collapse onto the snow howling in pain. As quick as lightning, she spun around and thrust the sword deep into the opponent's throat, neatly and coldly ending the life of the rogue leader. Logan and the vanguard warriors watched the scene in shock. They realized that although she could not shift into a wolf, Valeria's sharp tactical mind and flawless combat skills were far more terrifying and dangerous than any fierce wolf wildness. Her bravery and sharp commanding intellect provided an extraordinary source of motivation for Logan and the exhausted warriors to rise up in a fierce counterattack. Just then, a resounding roar of supreme alpha aura shook the entire Greystone Valley. Lycan King Kaelin led the main Black Guard force clad in black iron armor, charging in majestically to crush the last rogue wolves. The rogue storm was completely destroyed without the Black Guard, suffering any further casualties. Beta Logan knelt and banged his iron shield heavily on the cold snow in front of Valeria, speaking loudly with utmost respect and admiration. "Thank you, great Commander-in-Chief Valeria. If it wasn't for your brilliant tactical command and brave, timely rescue, we would have been buried at this frost pass. You are our most worthy commanding leader." Hundreds of surrounding Black Guard warriors simultaneously knelt, raising their iron swords and chanting "Luna," Commander-in-Chief with absolute loyalty. Kaelin took long strides to Valeria's side, his ashy gray eyes overflowing with boundless love and ultimate, proud arrogance for his fated mate. He gently took off his majestic black wolf royal cloak and draped it over the girl, holding her tightly in his arms before the entire army. "Valeria, you did excellent. You have proven to this entire freezing north that you are the most brilliant tactical warrior. I claim you not only because you are my mate, but because you are the only general most worthy to stand beside the throne, commanding my entire army and ruling the north." Valeria rested her head lightly on the warm, muscular chest of the Wolf King, feeling the sweet warmth spreading to dispel the biting cold of the freezing winter night. She knew her warrior honor and commanding position had been firmly affirmed by this bloody, Practical victory, completely shattering all the cowardly, weak prejudices of her enemies. Chapter 8. Awakening the Silver Wolf Power. The air in the treatment secret room of Obsidian Fortress was filled with the gentle, cooling warmth from the large copper cauldron boiling ancient snow herbs. Valeria sat on the large granite platform, her thin, bare shoulders shivering slightly from the cold wind seeping through the castle door crevices. Kalen stood beside her, his ashy gray eyes filled with worry yet resolute, as he offered her a bowl of pale green herbal medicine. The sweet scent of wild mugwort and white jasmine spread throughout the secret room. Kalen gently stroked her soft brown hair, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Valeria, breaking the silver lock seal in your chest will be excruciatingly painful. The Border Witch's dark magic toxin has clung tightly to your wolf energy veins for the past 10 years. When the seal is brutally broken, the compressed wolf energy will erupt violently. You must endure it with utmost resilience. I will always be here to bear a part of the pain with you through our mate bond." He placed his giant, hot hand on her back, transmitting a surging royal aura into her meridians to protect her wolf core. Valeria took the medicine bowl, her hazel eyes burning with ironclad determination. She drank the bitter medicine, feeling a cool breath unblocking her meridians spreading across her chest, dispelling the numbness in her fingertips. She closed her eyes, manually bringing her fingers to touch the silver crescent moon birthmark on her left cheek, where the dark magic seal pin was hidden. She recalled that day, a freezing winter day 10 years ago when the snow covered the old Bloodclaw pack in white. 10-year-old Valeria was tied tightly by Silas to a wooden chair in a dark cellar. A border witch with wrinkled skin and bloodshot eyes approached, holding a magic silver pin glowing red under an evil black flame. The witch let out a gruesome laugh, muttering curses in the ancient language of darkness, then brutally thrust the silver pin deep into the little girl's cheek. She screamed miserably in pain, her sealed soul in the silver wolf buried from then on, turning her into a weak, humiliated wolf. Valeria used great force, decisively pulling the dark magic silver pin hard out of her cheek. "Ah!" Valeria screamed breathlessly in ultimate agony, echoing throughout the stone secret room. As soon as the silver pin left her cheek, a pitch-black smoke of dark magic immediately rose from the scar, carrying the gruesome screech of a burning demon. The silver pin covered in evil black ooze fell onto the stone floor with a clink, then instantly turned into ashy gray dust and disappeared completely. A terrifying sharp pain ran along her nervous system, causing all the blood vessels on her body to bulge pitch black like spiderwebs. Kalen groaned softly with a deep sound as the mate bond transferred a third of her pain into his muscular chest, but he hugged her even tighter to be the firmest leverage point. As the boundary between life and death blurred, Valeria vaguely saw the gentle silhouette of her late mother appearing in the moon goddess's silver light. Her mother gently placed her warm hand on her head, smiled and whispered, "My beloved Valeria, you have found your true mate. Rise up and unleash our wolf power." The warm words of encouragement gave her extraordinary willpower to overcome the extreme pain tearing through her body. Valeria trembled violently, her chest convulsing intensely, her lungs suffocating, unable to breathe in the air. She felt as if her body was about to be torn into 100 pieces, under the destructive force of the brutally broken seal energy. Suddenly, from deep within Valeria's soul, a brave, proud howl of the ancient ice wolf rang out, shaking the entire secret room. The ancient ice wolf bloodline sealed for the past 10 years erupted fiercely like a broken dam. A brilliant, flawless blue light burst from Valeria's body, radiating the supreme Luna aura that shook the secret room, melting all surrounding ice layers and destroying the nearby herbal stands. The ice-snow blue wolf wildness spread across the room, covering the rough granite floor with a stunningly clear blue ice layer. Kalen observed the entire process with profound reverence, astonished by the massive silver wolf power of his fated mate. In Valeria's consciousness, the giant silver wolf with clear blue eyes stretched its body and stood up after a long 10-year slumber. Its fur was as pure white as pristine snow, sparkling with the pale blue light of eternal ice. It walked close to her, rubbing its massive head against her, emitting pleasant, familiar sounds. "Valeria, I have returned. We are no longer imprisoned in the darkness. Stand up and demand our justice. The enemies will have to kneel before our power." The rough magic scar on Valeria's left cheek began healing at a dizzying speed under the blue light. The darkened skin disappeared, replaced by pure white, flawlessly smooth skin. Her true appearance, the gorgeous royal beauty of a true northern Luna, was fully restored. Her inner wolf, the silver wolf with royal blue eyes, was fully awakened in her mind. Kaelin helped her sit up, gently wiping the remaining sweat droplets on her forehead. He looked deep into her hazel eyes, now sparkling with the pale blue light of his fated mate. "You did excellent, Valeria. You have conquered your own fear. Now you not only have your wolf power back, but you are also the strongest Luna of this north." Valeria smiled gently, resting her head on his shoulder. "Thank you, Kaelin. Without your warmth and protection, I would never have had enough courage to face and restore this appearance." Valeria collapsed into Kaelin's chest, her breathing gradually stabilizing after the energy storm. She looked up at the large copper mirror placed nearby. In the mirror was the flawless, absolutely beautiful face of the Bloodclaw pack leader's daughter. No longer the ugly animal skin mask, no longer the humiliating magic scar. The scarred servant girl of the past had now become the most gorgeous and powerful Luna of the North. Kaelin looked at the girl in his arms, his ashy gray eyes filled with extreme shock and ultimate infatuation before his fated mate's gorgeous beauty. He leaned down, kissing her forehead gently with full cherishment. "The Northern Luna's beauty has returned to you. Now no one can deny your identity anymore, Valeria. We will confront them together at the trial immediately before the High Council. Justice will be served under the Northern Moon." Chapter 9. The Supreme Northern Trial. The atmosphere inside the Northern High Council's Supreme Meeting Room was filled with extreme, freezing tension. The meeting room was built from giant granite blocks. Large stone pillars carved with images of past wolf kings stood tall, supporting the high ceiling covered in the dust of time. Dozens of veteran wolf elders with white hair and leaders of neighboring packs sat around the large, rough granite round table full of time's marks. In the center of the meeting room, Alpha Silas and Evelyn were tightly locked in iron chains, kneeling on the floor under the strict guard of the black iron-armored Blackguard warriors. Silas's face was full of hatred and anxiety, while Evelyn constantly cried and begged for pity. They understood that if they could not defend themselves successfully, death was imminent. In the great hall of the High Council, the leaders of the neighboring packs had also fully gathered. Alpha Silas of the Stone Backpack, this was confused, this is the old Bloodclaw pack. Keep the old Bloodclaw pack. And the leaders of neighboring packs all wanted to witness this historical trial, where the Lycan royal honor was brought to justice, and the deceiver would have to pay a heavy price. Elder Thorn stood up, his cloudy eyes glaring angrily down at Silas. "The actions of Silas and the Bloodclaw pack are a great disgrace to the entire freezing north. They colluded with Border Dark magic to seal the purest Ice Wolf bloodline, elevating an impostor to the royal Luna. If we do not severely punish this behavior, the Supreme Pack law will become a laughingstock for all Northern Wolf packs." At this moment the grand oak doors slammed open. Valeria entered with Lycan King Kaelin. The entire meeting room immediately fell into extreme, shocked silence. Valeria no longer wore the ugly animal skin mask, nor did she have the hideous scar on her cheek. She wore a gorgeous blue evening gown embroidered with silver thread, her glossy brown hair cascading down her shoulders. Her face was flawlessly beautiful, radiant like a winter snow lotus, radiating a pure, powerful Luna aura that made the surrounding elders' wolf wildness unconsciously tremble, wanting to kneel down in respectful submission. No one dared to doubt this royal aura. Valeria Evelyn's eyes widened in horror at the half-sister she had always trampled upon, unable to believe her eyes before her gorgeous beauty. The intertwined jealousy and fear deformed her face into ugliness. Silas also choked, his body trembling violently as he felt the ancient Ice Wolf power radiating fiercely from Valeria's body. The 10-year seal had been completely broken, revealing the purest royal bloodline. He knew his end had come. He turned to look at Elder Thorn for help, but Thorn deliberately avoided his gaze. Elder Thorn held the High Council's supreme magic testing stone and placed it on the large stone table. The rough black obsidian stone engraved with white ancient runes radiated a gentle coldness. Thorn said, "Valeria, step forward and touch this supreme magic testing stone. This is the final trial to confirm your royal bloodline." Valeria slowly stepped up to the stone table. She closed her eyes, feeling the resonating heartbeat of the ancient Ice Wolf bloodline within her body. She gently reached out her pure white hand to touch the crystal stone. Instantly, the supreme magic testing stone erupted with a brilliant blue light hovering in mid-air, enveloping Valeria, Those light rays danced around her like ice and snow beings welcoming their true master. The dazzling sparkling gold and blue light reflected across the stone room, brightly illuminating the soaring stone vaulted ceilings of the grand meeting room, causing the elders in Thorn to cover their eyes in astonishment, completely dispelling the ashy gray coldness of dark magic. The stone hovered and landed neatly in the palm of her hand, acknowledging her as the sole true master of the Bloodclaw family. The High Council elders held their breath watching this miraculous scene. Elder Thorn exclaimed emotionally, "It has been 10 years since we saw the ice seal awaken so powerfully. This is the clearest proof of the royal ancient ice wolf bloodline." Valeria turned to face Silas and Evelyn, her steely voice echoing across the rough stone meeting room. "The magic testing stone evidence is clear. But your crimes do not stop there. Evelyn, you secretly slipped the gray wolfsbane powder poison into my ginseng tea 10 years ago, before the engagement ceremony to freeze my silver wolf bloodlines, making the old pack's magic testing stone turn ashy gray and useless." With that said, Valeria took out from her pocket the glass shards of the dark blue-gray wolfsbane powder poison vial and placed them on the large stone table in front of the High Council elders. She dropped a few drops of purifying herbal water onto the shard. A pale ashy gray smoke rose, radiating the distinct pungent smell of border-dark magic, the exact same scent as the ashy gray breath that had haunted the old Bloodclaw magic stone. Elders Gary and Craig hurriedly bent down to examine the shards carefully, nodding slightly in agreement with her. Overcome with panic and despair, Alpha Silas went mad, trying to struggle and roar, intending to use the iron chains to charge and attack Valeria to silence her. But instantly, Lycan King Kalen gently waved his hand, unleashing overwhelming royal alpha aura that pinned Silas firmly down onto the rough granite floor, causing the stone floor under his knees to crack deafeningly. Evelyn knelt squirming and crying miserably. She frantically pointed her finger at Silas. Crying injustice, Silas forced me to do it. He wanted the alliance, so he forced me to poison Sister Valeria. I was only following his orders. Silas hissed through his teeth, insulting her as a cowardly, jealous, and traitorous bitch. This is the shard of the gray wolfsbane powder poison vial that Evelyn's subordinate threw away in the old Bloodclaw chest, and it still retains its toxicity. Evelyn used this dark magic to falsely frame me as useless in order to usurp the Luna throne. Evelyn squirmed on the ground as her crimes were fully exposed before the High Council Grand Assembly, her face pale, unable to utter a word. She hung her head down, crying miserably in ultimate helplessness. Beta Vance of the Silver Moon Pack bowed respectfully before Valeria. "Luna, our Silver Moon Pack has long doubted Silas's legitimacy. Today, under the witness of the royal ice seal and the supreme aura of the Lycan King, we completely acknowledge you as the true leader of the Bloodclaw Pack and the Luna of the North." Silas of the Stone Backpack, the old pack name was changed, also loudly declared with admiration for her wolf power. All the representatives of neighboring packs unanimously chanted in submission to the great new Northern Luna, shattering all chances of Silas and Evelyn's sophistry. Chapter 10. The Luna of the North. The final verdict of the Northern High Council was declared loudly before all the elders and warriors of Obsidian Fortress. Alpha Silas and Evelyn were sentenced for the crimes of attempting to murder the former Luna, royal treason, and deceiving the Lycan King. According to the Supreme Northern Pack Law, their punishment was the complete stripping of their wolf power and permanent exile from the territory, banished to the barren Deadlands, where blizzards howled all year round, a place where no living creature could survive without the protective power of a wolf. They would have to live the rest of their days in ultimate coldness and humiliation. 2 Blackguard warriors forced Silas and Evelyn to kneel before the entire High Council Grand Assembly. Elder Thorn stepped up to the large stone table, holding the ancient stone staff of the ancestors. He loudly read the royal sentence and activated the magic of the Supreme Pack Law. A dark red, eerie light erupted from the head of the stone staff, tightly wrapping around Silas and Evelyn's bodies. They screamed miserably in pain as their wolf wildness was violently torn from their bloodlines and souls, turning them into the weakest of humans with wrinkled skin, their bodies trembling before the biting cold. The Deadlands was a barren desert located at the northern border, where blizzards howled relentlessly all year round. With dark vertical cliffs, not a single blade of grass could survive. The temperature here was so cold that it could freeze the blood in one's body in just a few minutes, without the protection of wolf wildness. Silas and Evelyn, now just weak, wolfless humans, exiled to this place, would face the cruelest punishment of nature, enduring the biting cold and starvation until their last breath faded away. Silas and Evelyn were escorted in iron chains through the giant iron gates of Obsidian Fortress. Evelyn's miserable screams, begging for mercy, tore through the freezing night, but no one in the castle showed pity for the cruel deceivers. As the thick oak gates slammed shut behind them, the northern blizzard immediately struck, swallowing the two lonely silhouettes into the void of the dead lands. The howling snow wind would be their final sentence. Valeria stood beside Kaelin on the high stone throne platform, silently watching the enemies pay a heavy price for the crimes they had committed. Her tears fell lightly, but they were tears of liberation and peace of mind for her late mother. Justice was finally served completely under the northern moon. Together they stepped onto the supreme stone throne, amidst the welcoming cheers of all the northern royal warriors. As time passed, the harsh northern winter gradually softened. Under the warm protection of the ancient Ice Wolf bloodline and Valeria's royal purifying energy, the shadow curse that had ravaged Kaelin's body for the past 10 years was completely healed, no longer erupting in pain every freezing winter night. The dark gray scar haunting his chest completely vanished, restoring his robust body. The fortress castle was now filled with laughter and new vitality. The long, proud howls of the wolf warriors echoed throughout Obsidian Fortress to celebrate the coronation day of the new Luna. The great hall was brightly lit by thousands of fragrant beeswax candles. Pear wine and roasted mutton were served incessantly. The warriors of the Bloodclaw Pack, who were once brutally oppressed by Silas, now all cheered in joy at being liberated under Valeria's guidance. The new military commander of the Bloodclaw Pack knelt at the foot of the throne, swearing eternal loyalty, tying their land in absolute peace with Obsidian Fortress. They knelt before the stone throne, offering her the purest bunches of snow jasmine as a tribute of loyalty. The celebratory banquet for the new Luna was held with utmost grandeur in the great hall of Obsidian Fortress. Hundreds of wolf warriors raised their glasses to toast Valeria and Kaelin. There were no longer the contemptuous whispers or mockeries of the past, only ultimate respect and adoration for the beautiful, proud, and powerful Luna. Valeria sat on the stone throne beside Kaelin, the black wolf royal cloak draped over her shoulders, a radiantly happy smile on her lips under the warm, flickering torchlight. Kaelin tightly grasped Valeria's hand, standing up with her to welcome all the northern subjects. Hundreds of warriors knelt simultaneously at the foot of the stone throne, the resounding chants of Luna. Luna shook the massive oak beams, showing absolute loyalty and respect for their new ruler. The entire Obsidian Fortress was immersed in overflowing royal joy, signaling an extremely bright and promising future ahead. Valeria stood tall beside him, her hand tightly gripping the hilt of her Supreme Commander's sword. On a flawless full moon night, the northern sky was filled with the gentle silver light of the revered moon goddess. On the highest tower peak of Obsidian Fortress, the snow had stopped falling, making way for pure white snow jasmine flowers blooming across the ancient stone walls, radiating a pure sweet scent that spread in the air. Kaelin stood tall beside Valeria, his amber eyes filled with boundless love looking at his beautiful girl. Valeria wore a pure white evening gown like a snow lotus, her flawless face looking up at the sparkling full moon above. Valeria, Kaelin spoke in a deep, warm voice. He wrapped his large, sturdy arms tightly around her from behind. You have gone through so much suffering to come to my side. Even in the darkest days, you kept your pride. Even when trampled upon and exiled beyond the wild borders, you stood firm. From today, I swear under this full moon, I will use my life and my throne to protect you, never letting you suffer any harm again. You are the only Luna of my life, and the sole Supreme Commander-in-Chief commanding the Northern Army. Valeria turned to face him, her hazel eyes shining with sweet happiness. I believe you, Kaelin. You are the warmth that dispels the ice in my life. Together we will rebuild the prosperous North and protect this territory. Kaelin leaned down, his amber eyes flashing with the wildness of a mate's healthy, possessive desire. He slowly tilted his head, gently sinking a faded claiming bite into Valeria's pure white, sensitive neck skin. Her cool silver ice wolf energy and his warm royal energy blended to form a brilliant magic halo wrapping around her neck, sealing their eternal mate bond under the northern full moon. A surging warm bioelectricity erupted fiercely along both their veins, sealing their eternal mate bond under the northern full moon. The burning hot energy from Kaelin transferred to Valeria, becoming one with her cool ice wolf bloodline, creating a perfect balance that permanently soothed the shadow curse in his body. Valeria hugged the Wolf King's broad shoulders tightly, feeling his heartbeat racing by her ear, signaling a warm and happily ever after future. Snow fell lightly on their shoulders, but here at Obsidian Fortress, the freezing winter had permanently passed, making way for a warm spring full of life and love from the Lycan King and his true commanding Luna. They stood together under the brilliant moon goddess light, ready to face and overcome any storms of the freezing north together, to protect their peaceful kingdom forever after.